But right now, on the phone with me, I have a man responsible for birthing the 12-inch vinyl record and extending dance records in the clubs back in the 70s, Mr. Tom Moulton. Mr. Moulton, welcome to the Time Machine.
Yes, glad to be here, Jarrell.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this interview with me.
More than happy to.
All right, now let's go ahead and jump head first into it. What were you doing before you got your start in the record business?
Well, I got in the record business very young. I mean, I knew I wanted to be in the music business. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but, you know, I started when I was in high school working in a record store. I just was so excited to be around records and music.
So, kids, this was back before, you know, you can download stuff on iPods. You actually had to run down and buy this big little piece of vinyl that came in a 12-inch or 45, and somebody in the back had to probably get a little album that had brown paper on it, or something of that nature. So, going from high school and working at the record shop, where did that lead you to?
Well, then I moved to California, and I got a job with Seaberg, the jukebox people.
Okay. So,
and I became the buyer of the 45s. We had a one-stop there where jukebox operators would come in and, you know, buy records for their different locations. And I mean, it was just exciting back in those days.
I bet they were. And kids, just a little bit of radio history for you. Tom Storrs, the man that started Top 40 Radio, got the idea. He was at, I believe, a restaurant or something, and he saw kids putting money inside a jukebox and playing popular records. He was like, hey, let me take the jukebox concept, put it on radio, shuffle 5-10 songs, and boom, you got Top 40 Radio.
Yeah, I heard that story too. I could see why. You know, I could see why. I mean, you know, it was you know, Jarrell, it was so amazing back then because, you know, we were so innocent back then. You know, we didn't have, you know, the internet, and we didn't have this communication where, you know, people who lived in small towns, you know, unless they were in a big city, they weren't exposed, you know, let's say they weren't robbed of some of their childhood by being in a big city, which was more sophisticated than a lot of small towns. And it was more of an innocent time then. You know, the music was very important. That's why, you know, the lyrics and how people felt during that time were so important in the music.
I definitely agree with that because, like, Motown was like the soundtrack of the generation that grew up in the 60s. Then, of course, you had Stax down in Memphis, Tennessee, gritty, southern soul music. Now, before you got your job over at King's Records, holding down a sales and promo job, you worked as a male model. So what was that?
No, I worked as a male model, believe it or not, after that.
After the King position.
Oh, yeah, that was, I was doing that in the early 70s before I started, you know, getting into the technical side of music.
Okay, so what was the whole modeling thing like?
Well, I did that to get out of the music business. It was just the bull, you know what I'm saying? It was just so much hype, and, you know, I didn't feel the honesty wasn't there, and that's why I had to get out of it. I mean, I just really, I couldn't take it anymore. Because I always like to tell the truth, and of course, you know, in this business, you don't hear much of that, if you know what I mean.
No, you don't, because you have PR people telling you, oh, you can't say this will ruin this, ruin that. But if you try to tell it like it is, you may be blackballed or probably burn some bridges.
You know, and I find, you know, like I say, you know, I've always tried to be honest and, you know, express my feelings. A lot of people don't like it, but, you know, I still have my integrity, I still have my pride, and I'm very proud of where I am because I know I didn't kiss anything to get where I am, so I'm very proud of that fact.
Okay, and you worked at King from 59 to 61. Now, when was it that you actually discovered the breakdown section and got the idea for the 12-inch?
Well, that didn't happen until the early 70s. That's where that idea happened. And like I said, it started with a song called Dream World by Don Downing. And I got an instrumental version of it, and I kind of pieced it together. And when I took it to the company who put it out, he said, well, how would you like to try that in the studio? And I went, well, I don't really know much about that. And he said, well, it's about time you learned. And go in and try to do it in the studio. And, of course, the song modulated, and the song was only like 2.5 minutes to begin with. And the song modulated. In other words, it goes to another key. And so when you're trying to, like go through a good part of the song, and I went through the modulation, then I tried to go back to the beginning of the song, and of course the song dropped down in the key, and it sounded terrible. It sounded like a downer. So I said, no, we can't do that. So I tried to eliminate all the things that were musical. And so by doing that, I took out the guitars, the piano, the strings, the horns, the background, everything, and then I realized, well, what have I got left? I got the drums, I got the conga, and tambourine. So I said, well, I guess I got to raise those and try to make it sound like a breakdown of sorts. But the only reason I did that was just so I could get to, use the first part of the song again. And, people to this day keep saying to me, oh, the song modulates twice. And, of course, I say, no, it doesn't. It only modulates once. But you think it modulates again only because you don't hear the musical instruments.
Mm-hmm. And it was because of the whole 12-inch sensation that discos were up and about, and everybody was shaking their boogie-oogie woogies until the morning sun came up. Now, what was it about the 70s period? It was like disco was huge. Then, of course, you had Studio 54 and various other discos all across the country that made the 70s so special. And it was so very vibrant. It was very carefree during that period.
Yes, it was. The thing I found that, by observing people and watching them, was people wanted a way to escape the daily grind. Not everybody's happy what they do in life, and when it comes to the weekend, they go, hey, I want to go out and have a good time, and I want to get lost in it, and people always, at least in the big cities, here, they went to clubs, they wanted to hear music, and they wanted to get lost in the music, and I think that had a lot to do with it.